Good morning. It's Liverpool Transfer Daily here on Blood Red. I'm Guy Clarke. Thanks for joining us. Fresh from swatting aside RB Leipzig, the Reds are off to Austria. Meanwhile, the transfer rumour mill keeps on turning. Coming up, we'll be discussing the latest speculation involving the Reds and their rivals. To do all of that, I'm joined by Liverpool.com's Emmet Gates. Emmet, I hope you're well. And in terms of Liverpool's transfer dealings, I think maybe it became a bit clearer yesterday, given the convincing nature of the 5-0 win over RB Leipzig, as to how desperate Liverpool maybe are for a midfielder. Continued links with Sporting Lisbon's Matheus Nunes. But as I say, the midfield seemed to perform really, really well out in Germany.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We see all this speculation, linking Liverpool with Nunez, but you really think do they need another midfielder? Obviously Harvey Elliott and Fabio Carvalho have done really well in pre-season, and Harvey Elliott, at the beginning of last season, he was used in midfield until he got that horrendous double fracture. So I mean, people kind of forget that Harvey Elliott can be utilised in midfield, even if he maybe would like to be used a bit further forward. There's still Curtis Jones, obviously Fabio Carvalho's joined, and obviously still the existing, the main midfielders: Fabinho, Thiago Alcantara, Jordan Henderson. You do kind of question whether Liverpool actually need another midfielder at this point, even if maybe I was reading this morning that West Ham are maybe interested in Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. You kind of think, even if he does depart, do they really need another midfielder? I don't know. I think the jury's definitely out on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let us know in the chat box your thoughts. Fidel Alexander saying, morning, Reds. David saying, Fabio Carvalho, the real deal. He'll split any defence from midfield. And also, comment here, last season there were a few matches where people said Liverpool could have won by 7 or 8 when they won 3 or 4-0. And now feels as though Liverpool do have the squad to do so, calls it Darwin's natural selection. Of course, Darwin Nunez did get 4 goals yesterday. And in terms of the midfield and kind of the makeup of it, as we say, the links to the other Nunes at Sporting Lisbon, it's been kind of a market in which Liverpool have shopped frequently, with the likes of Luis Diaz arriving, obviously Fabio Carvalho of Portuguese origin himself, albeit via Fulham, and Darwin Nunez. But in terms of the midfield, it feels as though it's very well weighted at the moment between experience and youth. And actually, there's not really much sense in just throwing somebody in there for the sake of winning the transfer market.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the phrase now, isn't it? Over the last couple of years, winning the transfer market, as if it's a trophy that you get at the end of August, for the best buying and selling. Yeah, I mean, as you say, yeah, there is no point in even if Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain does leave, there's no point in signing Nunez, who wouldn't be cheap, by the way. There's no point bringing him in just for the sake of another body in midfield. Liverpool would just be as easy, or Jurgen Klopp would just be as easy sticking with the squad that he has. The lineup in midfield as he has. As you said, it's a nice blend between youth and experience. And yeah, Nunez, he's clearly a talented boy. From the bits I've seen of him, I can't profess to be an expert on him, but I mean, he would not be cheap, as everyone knows. Dealing with Portuguese sides is never easy, and talent does not come, cheap. So, is it really worth Liverpool paying 40, 50 million just for another body to bring into midfield? I think Jurgen Klopp probably has confidence in the midfield that he has, and even if actually Chamberlain does leave, I don't really think he needs to dip into the transfer market. Obviously the fans would love that, because fans seemingly love the buying and selling of players, really, rather than what actually happens on the pitch nowadays. But yeah, I don't feel like there's any need for Liverpool to buy another midfielder, especially not one at 40, 50 million. I think maybe it could be a case of just waiting for a year and going after Jude Bellingham and just leaving the midfield as is.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting one. It's split the chat box as well. I'll be saying that yes, Liverpool need another central midfielder who can go box to box, and reckons that Liverpool will wait until January to try and bring in Jude Bellingham, given the fact that Dortmund wouldn't sell Haaland and Bellingham in the same summer. But surely saying, let's be real, we're stacked in the midfield. We're not going to bring anyone. Why would we leave it this late? And Frank also saying that he doesn't think Liverpool do need another midfielder at the moment because the lads are so good. And I suppose really what feeds into that is what Albie says himself, that Fabio Carvalho looks as though he is the cherry on top. What a talent he's been. And actually, I think in even the glimpses we've seen of him in pre-season so far, there's maybe a hint, actually, a bit like Harvey Elliott last season and the impact he made right at the beginning of the campaign, that he's not just there to make up the numbers. He could be a very, very useful member of the squad for Jurgen Klopp. And our Liverpool correspondent at the Echo, Paul Gore, saying yesterday on our post-match debrief that he's not just going to be there for the cup games. Expect Fabio Carvalho maybe to play a bit more than most people from the outside would probably expect.
Yeah, I mean, you would kind of look at it from the from the outside and think, yeah, he will obviously maybe just play in the early rounds of the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup. But as we saw with Harvey Elliott, at the beginning of last season, if Jurgen Klopp thinks you're good enough, you will start Premier League games from the get go if you impress in pre-season. And Fabio Carvalho has done that. We've seen him. He plays that position almost where he drifts in between the lines, and that adds another layer of attacking intent for Liverpool, and it gives the opposition something else to worry about. Obviously with Trent on one side, Andy Robertson on the other. You've got Jordan Henderson who can break from midfield at times, and then obviously you've got Mo Salah, Darwin Nunez, but Carvalho adds maybe something different. And yeah, I mean, as we've seen, if he's good enough, he will play, and he won't be just preserved for the early rounds of the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. So it wouldn't be a surprise actually if Fabio Carvalho starts, within the first couple of games of the season. It would
Well,
not
the
surprise
first game of the season's on his old stomping ground. So, I mean,
me.
in terms of environment, he couldn't be more settled for kind of that, could he? But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Ice-T saying, Fabio and the young fella Bajcetic, how good are they? Stefan Bajcetic, for me, I think has been the surprise revelation almost, as it were, of pre-season for Liverpool. Played really, really well and a crucial role in helping Darwin Nunez in getting that second goal, intercepting before Trent just rolled it on for Nunez to get his second of 4 on the evening for Liverpool. Before we go, though, let's talk about some of the Reds' rivals and the deals they're looking to conclude. And Chelsea last season, Emmett, were kind of labelled as one of those sides who may have won the transfer window fresh off of winning the European Cup. They went and dropped near on £100 million on Romelu Lukaku. That was meant to be the missing piece of the jigsaw. It didn't really work out. And now this year, obviously, there's been plenty of change at boardroom level for Chelsea. A defence on the pitch in tatters almost with the amount of players who have left. Jules Kounde, a long-term target, looks as though a deal that they might look to complete. What are you thinking of Chelsea? Obviously, they've brought in Raheem Sterling. They have done business already, but looks as though, what are we, 2.5 weeks away from the start of the Premier League season, that they've got an awful lot to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's the contrast is stark with Liverpool's approach, where Liverpool got business done early. All the signings were brought in by the middle of June, so they had time to integrate into the club, and Jurgen Klopp got time to work with them, in tactics. And Chelsea have been the complete opposite. It seems like they've only started to buy players now within the last week to 10 days. And as you say, Lukaku was brought in to be the final piece of the jigsaw, and we all kind of know how that turned out. So, I mean, to be honest, I am impressed with how Chelsea have done in the transfer window. Sterling, we all know his qualities. Kalidou Koulibaly is a brilliant centre back. Perhaps not the force that he was a couple of years ago. I think maybe this move has come maybe 2 seasons too late, but he's still a very, very good defender. And for 34 million, it's a bargain, really, when you consider what defenders go for nowadays. And Jules Kounde, I feel like he's been going to Chelsea for the last 3 years. It's never actually transpired. So it's like finally, it's happening now. I can't profess again to have seen a lot of him at Seville, but I mean, he seems like a very good centre back from the bits that I have seen. Obviously, Sevilla in the Champions League or the Europa League. I think, but as you rightly pointed out, they're signing these players now with like 2 weeks of the season, before it kicks off. So it may be a case of when will they get up to speed? Thomas Tuchel really won't have that much time to work with them. And it's hard to know with Chelsea. We kind of thought, at the beginning of last season, a lot of pundits had Chelsea to be City's main rivals for the title, and we all know how that turned out. City or Chelsea weren't even close. It was Liverpool that pushed City all the way. So again, it's hard to maybe take a read on where Chelsea are at this summer, and then we don't know how long it will take for the new players to integrate in a Tuchel's system and for them to find out what exactly he wants from them. And as you say, they probably have to buy another defender or two, even if Kounde comes in. So yeah, Chelsea I think is very much a work in progress at this point.
Yeah, they've also got a young defender in Levi Colwill, basically threatening if they bring in any more defenders, he's going to get off, which of course would need further replacement. But that's that for the time being. Before we do go, though, just got this comment that I want to just flash on screen and read through. Diaz and Darwin showing us what it would have been like if we had Torres and Suarez in the same team. What's your take on that, Mitt? Because Luis Diaz, of course, has lit up Anfield since his arrival in January. And Darwin off the back of 4 goals. It looks as though that could be some partnership in the making when you throw in as well. There's a lad called Mohamed Salah part of that forward line as well.
Yeah, I think he's got a bright future, Salah. You know what I mean? For the bits I've seen of him,
might make it. Yeah,
I mean, yeah. I mean, Diaz and Nunes, they've obviously linked up really, really well in this pre-season. And Nunes is only, he joined later than, Fabio Carvalho and Calvin Ramsey, even though Ramsey's out injured. But Nunes was the last to arrive, and the fact that he struck up an understanding with Diaz already, and that's not even to mention Salah. We could be seeing a new Firmino, Mane, and Salah, partnership, and it's exciting times if you're a Liverpool fan because if the three of them click, it could be devastating. A mix of pace, power, technique, everything you want in an attacking trio. So yeah, opposing defenders need to be very scared if all three of them click together as a unit.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Well, that's it for us here this morning on the Liverpool Transfer Daily. Thanks to the chat box for joining myself, Emmett, and myself, Guy Clark, to go through the rumours in the rumour mill involving the Reds and their rivals this morning. Plenty more still to come across the Blood Red channel, including our full Blood Red podcast looking back on yesterday's dismantling of RB Leipzig. But until next time, it's bye for now.